Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Be Kind Rewind, a new series on the rebranded Alright Productions YouTube channel. My name is Adam. I'm here with my friend CJ.
Howdy.
And we're going to be talking about more classic films, mainly pre-2000. And
Yeah,
you want to talk more about it, CJ?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this is a thing. We were just like getting together. We're like, hey, we like talking about movies all the time, and sometimes we get into arguments and stuff. But it's the kind of stuff that we thought others might want to hear. You know, we have our own personal opinions, but there's also things that we agree about. So, like for this series specifically, we're going to talk about stuff mainly earlier in the 20th century to even early 2000s. Nothing that's really recent, but films that, you know, anyone from your casual moviegoer to more hardcore critics would like, you know, in general. What's going on for today?
Today we're going to be talking about the 1987 film Princess Bride.
That's right.
Directed by Rob Reiner, one of my favorite directors, actually.
Nice. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love this movie because, you know, it's got everything. It's got medieval fantasy, comedy, romance, and even adventure. And it kind of makes for this, like, bizarre but beautiful kind of masterpiece, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the American version of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah, a lot more story, though.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, Holy Grail has a story, but
True,
it's more comedy.
Yeah. It feels like it's kind of like a series of, like, episodes, more like.
Yeah, well, I mean, they came off of Flying Circus, and then
That's
was a sketch show. But
exactly.
We're not talking about Monty Python. We're talking about The Princess Bride.
Exactly.
So,
stay on topic.
Yeah.
Unlike Red Letter Media guys who are, like, constantly jumping from.
The Red Letter Media guys. I guess if you want to explain this podcast in other words. We're ripping off Red Letter Media and their review series just to gain views and subscribers off of their feed.
Oof.
So yeah, who needs Rich Evans? He's stupid because he's fat.
Okay then. Okay, we don't want to start any wars here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm coming for you, Rich Evans. But anyway.
Let's get into it, huh?
I think our intro's gone on long enough. Let's go ahead and talk about The Princess Bride.
Woo!
The Princess Bride. Not just your basic, average, everyday, ordinary, run-of-the-mill, ho-hum fairy tale.
What should we start off with?
Well, okay, how about the big one? This movie is super quotable. It is, like, known for being so quotable. Like, that's its thing.
Yeah. You ask someone to pick their favorite quote from Princess Bride, they list off, like, 10.
I couldn't decide. Like, okay, my first one, I guess, was like, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, prepare to die. But that's, like,
everybody knows that one.
But then, like, you go into it, and you're like, oh, my goodness. Like, I just realized how many things. I was like, yeah, I remember this part. Like,
yeah, there's, like, just little lines. He's like,
anybody want a peanut?
Yeah, he's like, call in the Brute Squad. He says, I'm on the Brute Squad. He says, you are the Brute Squad.
I love that part. Yeah, they're just so quotable. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the actors are so good. The characters.
I think it has a lot to do with William Goldman because he wrote the original book then he wrote the screenplay. For the movie. Yeah. So.
It's kind of like the guy who did Ready Player One, right? He helped write the screenplay for that movie based on his book. That's pretty cool.
Another thing, I guess that he has an advantage on Ernest Cline, who wrote Ready Player One. Well, not really, I guess, because Ernest Cline wrote a couple of movies. But William Goldman wrote several movies. He wrote, like, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
That's right.
And stuff like that. So, and that's another classic movie.
Yeah, he made classics, though. Like, that's like, on IMDb's, like...
Yeah, the top 250, yeah.
Yeah, two, that's it.
But anyway, I think it has a lot to do with William Goldman writing the book as well as the script.
Yeah, I mean, he knew the story better than anything.
I mean, he created the character, so he knows obviously what they would say.
When you have the creator of something, like when you're trying to adapt a book to a movie, if you have the creator as the one who's like making the screenplay, that's like the best way possible, because he's going to present it as he originally intended it to, instead of someone else's view of his work would have done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one great thing. It got presented just as he wanted it, or as the best way possible. Because if it wasn't him, it would have been out of his hands. So
yeah.
Anyways, good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. The quotes. Oh my goodness, love it. In fact, the whole feel, like you said in the movie, like, just, I don't know, it had to do with the pirates and stuff, but just the fun feel of it, you know, it was kind of like, you said it was like the Pirates of the Caribbean was like the spiritual successor.
Well, I mean the first one, not necessarily the other ones, but the first one,
the first one.
The first Pirates of the Caribbean, it kind of reminds me of like a spiritual successor to The Princess Bride, just in the sense of the way it feels, where it's serious, but there's also like comedy thrown in there.
Exactly.
And it's not necessarily campiness, but like the slight cheesiness, I guess. But it's like kind of a good cheesiness. It's like when you get the stuffed crust pizza.
The best kind of cheesiness.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. Like, I like how they treat the pirate business, the pirate stuff, like it's a business. Like, how the Dread Pirate Roberts was really just a name the whole time, and it's been passed down over the different people. That reminded me of Pirates of the Caribbean, where apparently there's like this pirate code, like the parlay, and you know, it's just so wacky but fun.
Yeah, and you can, or at least in my mind, I can relate a lot of the characters from the first Pirates of the Caribbean to characters from The Princess Bride. Like Jack Sparrow is obviously Inigo. You might think he's Wesley, but I identify him more with Inigo than anyone. And then Will, I kind of relate to Wesley a little bit.
They look so alike, Orlando
Yeah,
Bloom.
They do look very similar.
Now that I think about it, even the ponytail thing, which you like just noticed the last time.
Yeah, I just noticed when we watched this yesterday. That Carrie Elwes's character, or Wesley, I guess, has a ponytail.
And who was the main girl? You know, like Buttercup compared to the girl.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
They still have. They can be strong, independent, and you know, very emotional characters as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see why Pirates of the Caribbean would be a good comparison. The first one. The rest of them are marketing schemes that have no.
Yeah, but let's talk about the music for a second.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
So Mark Knopfler did the music for this. I haven't really heard much about Mark Knopfler before. But
he's actually really cool. He had his own like rock band, and he's like number 27 on Rolling Stone's list of 100 greatest guitarists of all time. He's done other movies, none that were nearly as noticeable as The Princess Bride, but he apparently he was a good choice for this, obviously.
Yeah, apparently he's done a lot of really cool stuff. I just hadn't necessarily heard of him.
Yeah.
But the music for this, it just goes along with the feeling of the movie. I think it's kind of it's like stuffed crust cheese. It's the best kind of cheese. Like it's stereotypical swashbuckling medieval kind of movie music, but it's just the way that it's incorporated into the movie makes it that much better.
Like the one scene, like where they're trying to get Inigo's pounding against the door, and then you have
and then the beats of the music hit as Inigo hits the door.
Exactly. That was like perfect.
Yeah, and even the little things, like when they're having the battle of wits, and Vizzini is asking Wesley questions and stuff, and Wesley's nodding his head. When he nods his head, like a violin kind of plays as he nods his head.
In that case, I challenge you to a battle of wits.
For the princess? To the death? I accept.
Exactly.
And it matches up.
I kept thinking of Baby Driver because of how Edgar Wright was so good at getting the music, or whoever was in charge of the music, how they got the music to match every single action in it. Like, Princess Bride, not nearly as well coordinated, but still really well done. And better than your average medieval fairy tale.
Yeah, music definitely helps a movie out a lot.
Oh, so much.
It can definitely make or break a movie.
Absolutely. Definitely. What else we got? How about the sword fighting?
The sword fighting.
Oh my! Speaking of well coordinated, I mean, it's just, who are you saying? Like, this was the best sword fight since the Robin Hood movie?
Yeah, since the Errol Flynn Robin Hood, that's what they were aiming for. I think they succeeded.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
But
tell some more about that. You were telling me about that earlier.
Yeah, so there's a book that Cary Elwes wrote, who's the actor that played Wesley, and it's called As You Wish, fittingly. And basically he talks about the movie and how the movie was made and stuff like that. And so he goes and he talks about how they didn't just learn the fight, they learned how to fence. Like, they trained every single day.
That's crazy.
Like, just like taking a class for fencing. And they were taught the basic moves and the defenses and stuff and the footwork. And once they learned all that, then they learned the fight. Because in most movies, I think, don't quote me on this, I'm pretty sure that they just either get stunt doubles that know how to fight, or they just teach the actors the choreography for the one fight. But for this movie, for Princess Bride, they actually learned how to fence and not just the choreography.
Because it was so natural, the way they, like, it seemed like these guys had been doing this whole life. And it really,
the whole scene where they're like, I am not left-handed. They had to learn how to fight with both hands for that scene.
Because, you have to understand, they built this scene up so well. It's like how Inigo was this great duelist who had trained his whole life in the arts. And then Wesley kind of pops out of nowhere as this, and originally you don't even realize it's Wesley. He's this dark, hooded figure.
He's a Dread Pirate Roberts.
The Dread Pirate and you're kind of like, we have an underdog sort of thing going on. And you realize how good he is. And then Inigo's like, I'm amazing, and I was being nice to you. And then he's like, well, I was being nice to you too. And you're like, oh man, the stakes keep getting higher.
Yeah,
and then
I like,
oh my gosh.
I like how in the beginning of the scene, like, Inigo he throws the rope and Wesley climbs up the rope, and they just sit there and talk for a minute while they catch their breath. It's just so casual, like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, they were really polite about it. It was really funny.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the fights in this movie. Like, they just talk. Yeah. Like, Inigo and Wesley, they just sit up there and talk, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're supposed to fight each other, so
and
let's go ahead and do that.
And that talk was really cool because it started to give a lot of depth to Inigo.
That scene is exposition.
Oh yeah.
But it's so, like, it's,
well done.
It's interesting exposition, I guess.
Oh yeah, because most exposition,
because he talks about,
he's like,
most movies it's like, this happens and this, or this and this and this happen.
And you don't really care.
There you go. It's just, all right, we're setting up a story. But what this does is it sets up Inigo's thing with the six-fingered man.
And that's a whole nother subplot that gets added to the movie.
And, I mean, it sets up the whole thing with Inigo and the six-fingered man.
Yeah.
And, like, we were talking earlier, how he's a henchman, and you don't necessarily,
exactly.
Like, up to this point, you're just like, oh, this guy and
Andre the Giant, Vicini, or no, Vicini's the evil.
Vicini is Wallace Shawn, yeah.
That's right. Fezzik.
Yeah, Fezzik. So up to this point, you're just like, oh, big giant dude, and then this guy that kind of looks like Jesus works for this midget. And I'll go off track for a second. So I just realized the last time we watched this yesterday to prepare for this episode. I guess they never really make it clear that I noticed, but I assume that the prince hired Vizzini and Fezzik and stuff.
Because he said something about starting the war with the other nation, and that was kind of what the plan of was.
So I assume that makes a lot more sense than just Vizzini showing up and then
he might have said it.
Starting a war for no reason, because you're like, why would he earn any money just for doing that? No. I assume, I guess I feel kind of stupid because I didn't realize that before. That it's like, oh yeah, that's why they're doing that. So
it's like it was.
It's self-explanatory, but I didn't think about it.
You're mainly focusing on the whole thing with Wesley trying to save Buttercup, and then this Inigo versus the Six-Finger Man thing. That the apparent storyline of this prince trying to start a war with the other, it kind of gets lost in it, and you don't really care about it.
Well, yeah, but let's talk about the prince and the Six-Fingered Man, Count Rugen or Rogan.
Yeah, Count Rugen.
Yeah, Count Rugen is the Six-Fingered Man, and then the prince. Let's talk about those guys for a second.
They were actually like.
Obviously it's Christopher Guest as the Six-Fingered Man is always great. Yeah,
beautiful performance.
Christopher Guest is a great actor.
It was he's in a lot of really nice.
Yeah, he's in a lot of Rob Reiner stuff. He was in Spinal Tap and stuff like that.
He gave me a kind of a Grand Moff Tarkin kind of feel, very cold but like intelligent and clever.
Yeah, and that's a really good comparison because it's kind of like the prince is like
the prince is like Darth Vader.
Is Darth Vader, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Six-Fingered
Man, he's the one who gets emotional and kind of
and the Six-Fingered Man. I always call him the Six-Fingered Man, but I guess it's Count Rugen. But anyway, the Six-Fingered Man, I think, I know he's under the prince's like command, but he still kind of tells the prince what to do.
Exactly.
So it is kind of like Grand Moff Tarkin, where he's under Vader.
You're still on,
but
you still are holding on the Vader's leash, Grand Moff. Princess Leia said something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Because the prince is the one, he gets emotional, he flips that switch and tries to kill Wesley, while the whole time the Six-Fingered Man is usually kind of in control of what's happening. He doesn't get emotional about stuff most of the time. In the same way with Grand Moff Tarkin and Darth Vader. And yeah. I just came up with that now. On the fly.
So that is a very good comparison, though.
Thank you.
But also some of the other characters, like Miracle
all
Max.
The characters are good. Like
even like the gatekeeper dude. He's only in it for a couple scenes, but he's very funny.
He's like this very pitiful character. He's like He tries to act noble and be the good guardsman, and then they pin him down.
He's like Gatekey. I don't know of a Gatekey, and he says, Fezzik, tear both his arms off. He says, you mean this Gatekey?
Exactly, right.
And even the one scene where he goes and talks to the prince, and I'm completely blanking on the prince's name, and that's why I'm just calling him the prince.
Pumpernickel.
Humperdinck. There you go. So if people were wondering why I'm just calling him the prince, it's because I forgot his name. Humperdinck.
The names in this movie are so funny. Inigo Montoya, Humperdinck, Buttercup.
And is Buttercup her first or last name?
I don't know. I still don't know.
No one knows.
Wesley Buttercup.
I don't know.
If he adopted her name, last name.
All right then. Alrighty then.
Alrighty then.
But anyway, yeah, the even the minor characters in this movie, and the let's talk about Billy Crystal for a second as Miracle Max.
Oh my goodness, this guy is a comedic legend.
Mike Wazowski.
You were saying that you kind of felt like that scene was out of place in the movie, though.
Yeah, well, I love the scene, but when you think about it, it's kind of just shoved in there just so Billy Crystal can be in the movie.
I thought it
but
worked.
I don't think. Let me rephrase that. I don't think the scene is in there just to put Billy Crystal in the movie, because I mean the scene obviously progresses the plot and
sure.
It wakes. He makes the pill for Wesley and wakes him up and stuff.
With the prince
so yeah, you have to have that scene. But maybe it's just because Billy Crystal is Billy Crystal, and it just kind of like threw me off a little bit.
And then his wife Valerie.
Yeah, it threw me off a little bit. It just threw me. It just kind of threw me off a little bit. Maybe it's because of Billy Crystal's voice, and I'm used to hearing.
He has a weird voice.
Hearing and seeing him in like more like modern movies, I guess, like not set.
Oh, that's true.
I don't know, but it just kind of like it's a great scene. I love the scene.
Yeah.
But just when you go back and think about it, you're like, that was kind of a strange scene.
Maybe.
But I don't really know why it was a strange scene.
Yeah.
Maybe I think it might just be like a personal thing, I guess.
No, I understand. It is very odd the way his comedy comes off, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of I don't think everything, but a lot of his stuff on there, even though it's very
it's a pause in the drama that was going
improvisational. Yeah, I get maybe that's what it is. Where it's
up until now you're like you hear
like
Wesley
there's
screaming
bits of there's bits of comedy throughout the whole movie, and then it just kind of throws me off, I guess, where like that
became a whole
part of the movie
section.
That part of the movie starts to become a whole section of drama.
And this was kind of more like a
and then you just
stand-up routine.
Go
almost.
from like super drama, like where Inigo's like, guide my sword and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you just like, oh, hello, do you need a MLT, mutton, lettuce, and tomato, and stuff like that. And I guess
it was different.
It's a very sudden change from drama to comedy.
I still would have rather had it than not have it.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a great scene, but it's just kind of
momentum.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
but I mean,
that's one of the more controversial parts of the movie. But like, it's so small. It's like we're kind of like nitpicking at this point. So
yeah, I mean, there's hardly anything wrong with this movie.
It's hardly, yeah. Yeah. So we're talking about how all the characters are really interesting, and like we said, that then there was the white guy, the albino.
The albino.
That kind of.
The white guy. Which one?
No, not racist. Not racist.
No, the albino.
He was really funny. You like that part where he talks like this,
even though it's.
They talk.
Yeah, even though that's like a thing that everybody does in movies, they're like, "Oh, hello, how's it going?" "Oh, hello, how's it going?" And they change their voice when they.
Do you think they did that before that point?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's one of my favorite uses of that, I guess.
That was pretty great.
Like they talk in a different voice and they.
And then marriage
is what brings us together today. This whole episode is just gonna like slowly devolve into us just quoting the movie.
I know,
because it's so quotable.
It's so quotable.
Yeah.
It's like there's just these random parts in the episode where it's like me screaming something, and then you're like, yeah, and then you do it, and I'm like, yeah.
Marriage.
But that's all of those, so amazing. I'm so impressed with this movie. I love this movie so much.
Yeah, let's talk about when's the first time you saw this movie?
Oh my gosh.
Or how did you find out about this movie?
It was a couple years ago. I think you might have said something. No, one of my friends from high school, they all talked about it. I'm like, oh, I haven't heard of this movie. And they're like, oh, it's great. It's, it's a family movie. So, like, anyone can watch it pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. So I looked it up. It was on Netflix at the time. It's not anymore, which is very sad. And I watched it. I was like, wow, this is actually kind of funny. And then I watched it again months later. I'm like, wow, okay, now I get it. Because it's like I could realize why it was so quotable because I came back to it. I was like, oh, I remember all this. I, like, remember everything. It's just so memorable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a suggestion because a bunch of my friends had seen it. And then you knew about it, and we talked more about it. And it just felt like, in preparation for this episode, just felt like one of those movies that's just really easy to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I think it's one of the few movies that anyone can watch. Like, if you're, whether you're 7 or 70, you can always find something you like about the movie.
You said the same thing about
Yeah, it's like Back to the Future.
Exactly.
Like, it's sci-fi stuff, and like my mom, for instance, she hates like sci-fi stuff. She doesn't like Star Wars or Star Trek or any of that stuff. But she likes Back to the Future, a lot, and I guess that's like my standard. If my mom likes it, then anyone can like it. But yeah, so it's just Princess Bride is just one of those movies that you can find something that you like, whether it's the characters, the music, the story, the writing.
I think that's part and parcel with like what the definition of timeless is. For one, it's something that stands up to today.
It is a fairy tale.
It can be enjoyed, but maybe more the word I'm thinking of is universal, in which it can be enjoyed by anyone. Mm-hmm. I think that's why it's so good.
It's one of those movies that, in the sense of the movie, I guess, never get dated.
Yeah.
Except if they remade this movie today, it'd be like the grandpa reading to his grandson, like off an iPad or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But, we totally skip over the part that the whole time this is a story being told from a grandpa to the grandson, and it's really cute. The little
it's a great framework to like set up the story.
Mm-hmm. And they do it really well too. There's funny scenes intermixed in between where the grandson says something funny. The grandpa
like, "Is this a kissing book?"
But then at the end, it gets really kind of campy and cute, where it's like, "Oh, I actually did enjoy this book all along," and the grandpa's like, "Yep, I told you," and you're like, "Ah." So
he's like, "The princess does not get eaten by the eels at this time." He says, "Wait, what?" He says, "Oh, well, you were looking kind of scared, so I decided to tell you that."
But like, this isn't original. I mean, the whole storytelling and the fairy tale, but it's original in that they take a twist on it. Like,
yeah, the way that it's done definitely helps it a lot.
The comedy, the way they put the comedy in.
That it's not just a fairy tale. No. It's got all kinds of genres thrown in. I mean, even at the beginning, the grandpa played by the amazing Peter Falk.
Oh my god, is legend.
Is like, he lists off all the things. He's like fencing, fighting, torture, romance, stuff like that.
Nowadays,
there's everything in this
that's kind
movie.
of been a cliche. Back then, that was kind of brand new. But like, you have Once Upon a Time, in which it's always about twisting a fairy tale. And I'm not putting any dirt on Once Upon a Time. It's the first seasons are at least great, but it's overused now. Mm-hmm. But back then, I just get a feel that this feels original. This feels different.
And you would think this film would be dated. And I mean,
the camera,
obviously some of the sets and stuff don't necessarily look the best, but that's like another part of the I'm gonna call it the stuffed crust.
The stuffed crust. The stuffed crust. This is Adam's thing now. It's the stuffed crust philosophy.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt with stuffed crust on it and sell it in our merch store that we don't have.
I will buy that. I will be your first customer for that one. I want that now. I really want that.
But is that our first catchphrase on this show?
It's like
stuffed crust. Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom. There we go.
Yeah, but the sets and stuff, you can tell they're fake, but that doesn't take away from the movie at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think. The sets.
The set on top of the Cliffs of Insanity where they have the sword fight. Obviously, it's
you can
fake,
see that the rocks weren't like really rocky, but it looked cool. I guess it gives into that storybook feel, where it's like it's realish looking, but it's not.
Yeah,
quite
going
real.
Back into the whole framework is a grandfather reading this to his grandson.
Exactly. It's a storybook,
and it's what the kid is imagining. So,
I think that's really cool. I like that a lot. And you said a lot of the other sets were done on.
Yeah,
site.
a lot of the sets were actually on location, other than like the Cliffs of Insanity, and the scene with the shrieking eels, that was in like a giant water tank at the studio.
Well,
but a lot
great.
of the stuff, like the Battle of Wits and the where he jumps on Fezzik's back and stuff, all that stuff was on location. I think the fire swamp was a set
That's
as well.
What I was thinking of. We kind of overlooked the fire swamp.
The fire swamp, yeah.
That was great.
I was watching I own the Criterion Collection version of Princess Bride.
Oh, nice.
And on one of the behind the scenes things they were talking about, I told you yesterday, where the short person that was playing the ROUS, the rodent of unusual size.
Yes.
He was driving to work one day they were getting ready to do the scene, and they had two
was he wearing the costume?
I'm gonna be slightly offensive. I'm gonna call these people midgets, okay?
Oh no.
So
they're called small people, okay? That's the politically correct.
Well, it's better than calling them Muppets.
Oh my gosh. We might have to take this out of here, or we might get I don't know.
We're gonna.
Then again, how many people are listening to us? I mean,
yeah, how many people are even gonna watch this first episode?
True. And if we get backlash for this, I'm just gonna laugh.
Yeah, 10 years from now, somebody's gonna find this and be like, "You said midget."
It's like,
that'll be like a swear word.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But
we're
anyway,
not even gonna get into that.
Yeah. Back to the story. Anyway, they had two little people for
the ROUSs.
The rodents of unusual size.
That's it.
And only one of them could do the fight scene with Wesley for some reason.
Oh. Yeah.
I forget why they said.
Huh.
But anyway, so he was driving to work one day. He gets pulled over, and he's like, I'm in a movie. I gotta go do this scene. And the officer didn't believe him. They took him to jail. So,
was it because he was wearing the costume?
I wish that was the reason. He was wearing the costume while driving. No, I don't remember the reason they said. But
you're gonna have to step out of the vehicle. You're wearing a dead mammal on your body.
There's a rat driving a car.
Poaching is not allowed in this area.
Yeah, but anyway, he gets taken to jail, and they're waiting on set for him. They're like, where is he? We need to film the scene today. They get a phone call. Hey, he's in jail, so they have to go to jail. They don't go to jail as well, but they go to the jail, and they have to bail him out so he can do the scene.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty funny story about the fire swamp and the ROUSs.
I also the eels and the ROUSs. I really liked the costumes. They gave me a very Tim Burton kind of feel. Kind of
yeah,
odd,
a little bit,
fantastical looking, but still really fun. I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
and that's another thing. There's no CGI or super computer stuff. It's all physical effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the fire
everything
up the cloak.
is practical effects.
Yeah.
Well, there's some paintings and stuff, but I mean, it's still practical.
That's still physically. That's images. It's not anything computer, because this was early. What was it? 1987. 87. Where they were just starting to.
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park was really like the only.
Yeah, that was really 93. So that was like another 5-6 years later.
Exactly. So yeah.
And I don't think of this movie being made in 1987. I always think it's before 87 because it seems older than that.
It does feel older, like the quality of the movie and the.
But that's just the stuffed crust, man.
Stuffed crust.
It's just the stuffed
crust. Okay.
It's the good cheesiness.
It tastes good. It's like it's kind of like not what you expected, and you're like, who would put cheese in the crust of a pizza? Like, most people don't even like the crust, but when you put that cheese in there, it makes it taste good. It's like it was worth it.
It's like
we could go on and on about.
We'll keep making pizza analogies for the rest of this episode.
I feel like this is going to be a thing that's going to go into all our other episodes as well. We're just going to start talking about the pepperoni and the meat, and
we're going to come up with analogies for each topping on a pizza.
We just love pizza, man, and food. You know,
we're like the Ninja Turtles.
Oh my god!
But we're not green.
No, we are not, my friend. No, we are not.
But how are you to know? Because this is only a audio for now. We might go video in the future.
Exactly. In the future, you're going to see a video of us in it, and we're both going to be green, actually.
Yeah, we'll paint ourselves green, especially for the live episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, but hey, guess what? We're going off topic again. We're supposed to be talking about the Princess Bride.
You got anything else to talk about? I'm kind of running out of things here.
I mean, we could always talk about. Let's talk about Rob Reiner for a minute.
Okay.
I probably know a little bit more about him than you do.
Yeah, I don't really. What other movies has he made?
He directed, obviously Princess Bride, but he directed Misery, the Stephen King thing. He also directed Stand By Me.
Oh, that's a good movie. I like that movie a lot.
Yeah, so he's a great director, and he's also Meatball and All in the Family. Or I call Meatball. I mean Meathead.
Okay, now we went from pizza to meatballs.
Yeah. There you go, Meathead.
Nice.
But anyway, Rob Reiner, great director.
Oh, when
not
Harry
such
Met
a great
Sally,
person.
He did that too.
Yep.
The Bucket List, A Few Good Men. Oh wow. Oh my goodness. The Wolf of Wall Street. He worked on that too.
Yeah, he was in that. He was an actor in that.
LBJ.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, he's in a lot of movies.
Oh my goodness! I just looked it up real quick, and it goes on forever. Oh wow!
Yeah, a lot of movies.
All right,
very extensive filmography.
My hats off to you, Mr. Reiner. Thank you for all your work in the movie business and making such a great movie as Princess Bride.
But I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
Should we do a rating system on this, or should we just leave it as?
What kind of rating system do you want? 1 out of 10? Like 5 stars?
Well, I mean the typical one is either 1 out of 5 or like a grading scale. We should have figured this out before we recorded the episode, but let's go ahead and do this.
And I'm gonna
let's go ahead and do this live.
I'm gonna regret this later because I'm gonna like make other movies like big budget movies that I still like, but then I have to compare it to this campy lower budget kind of film that still has
it's just a generic rating. Well, should we do a generic rating system?
Different genre or different types. It gets me all confused, and I don't know.
Or should we base it on the pizza system?
How many slices are in a pizza though? So can you have a circle?
Let's say
half, and you cut in half.
Let's
again.
say 8.
8.
There's like 8 slices.
8 slices. How many pieces of this pizza would you eat before you're done with it? Do you want to eat the whole thing?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Would you eat this?
Oh my gosh. Would you eat
a medium pizza? Like 8 slices.
It's gonna get real sad when I'm like, I'd eat like half a slice, and then throw the rest away.
Yeah, that's like Mac and Me or something.
The room. The room. You might like.
I might eat 1 slice for The Room.
The Room.
But
I haven't watched it.
We're not talking about The Room. That's for our other series that we may start called Dumpster Diving.
Yeah, the hilarity atrocities.
where we look at terrible movies and rip off Chris Stuckman's hilariosity. Basically, all this channel's gonna be
everyone.
Yeah, all this channel's gonna be is us ripping off different creators.
Exactly.
Because we can't think of original content. But let's do the pizza rating system.
All right.
How many out of 8 slices of pizza would you eat for this movie?
This is a good pizza. It's got that stuffed crust.
It's got the stuffed crust, yeah. So normally I don't eat the crust, but it's got that stuffed crust.
It's not
so
like
go
crazy.
It
doesn't have a ton of toppings or anything, but it's just good. It's like the kind of pizza.
We're gonna go really in depth describing this pizza, by the way.
I'm thinking of a mom and pop kind of shop where like they've been doing this for years. It's just good tasting pizza.
Where would you buy each pizza for this movie? Like, where would you buy a Transformers pizza? You'd probably buy that at
that's like Chuck E.
at
Cheese
like a
pizza.
chain, or like Princess Bride. You'd buy it at a pizza place that's been open for like 75 years or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. How many? But let's get down to the.
Let's just do it.
The final rating. How many slices of an 8-slice pizza would you eat for Princess Bride?
It's not a perfect movie. I think, I don't know. I just, I don't want to say it's a perfect movie, because if I say it's a perfect movie, I have to hold it up to as like.
There's no such thing as a perfect movie.
I fully enjoyed it though.
This is more your opinion than anything.
Okay,
you don't.
Okay.
What do you think of this movie?
Okay, you know what? I'm not going to go with perfect movie because that's nothing. But I fully enjoyed this movie 100%. So I'm going to give it 8 out of 8. I loved it fully. I had no problems with it. The whole Billy Crystal thing, I didn't even care about that in the first place. So there's nothing wrong with this movie. I love it. I'm hungry for more. I watch this over and I'd eat this pizza over and over and over again. Okay. 8 out of 8.
Yeah, just
slices.
Put it in the fridge, heat it up, and eat it again.
It tastes good anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect. It's not perfect, but it's the best. You're closest you're gonna get the perfect.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead. I gave it a 5-star rating on my Letterboxd. Check out my Letterboxd, by the way. Letterboxd.com/allrightfilms. But even though I gave it 5 stars, I think I'm going to go ahead and give it 7 out of 8 slices.
It's a little different when you got
I could almost eat the whole pizza, but there's just a couple things that I would change.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
It's a very, very, very good movie, but like any movie, there's a couple things that you would change here and there.
Either way, that's high for both of us. We both like this movie a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So I think that concludes our first episode.
Absolutely. Thank you all for listening, and tune in next time when we do another Be Kind Rewind episode, and look forward to other things that we do, like the bad movie idea we had.
The dumpster diving. Yeah, that's a. Let's go ahead and plug the future possible upcoming series at the end of this episode. Let's go ahead and do that.
Let's just do it.
So, stay tuned for Dumpster Diving, where we rip off Best of the Worst and Hilariosity. Stay tuned for movie reviews, where we review movies that are actually out and not from the 80s, because we are obsessed with the 80s. Video essays, maybe, because that market's not oversaturated enough.
Oh my goodness.
And
we're gonna
maybe
have to get really snooty on that one. Like, in my opinion, the lighting of
we're gonna have to.
It's gonna get all weird and philosophical and into movie the artistic side. But we're covering all our bases here. We got the bad movies, we got the old movies, we got the new movies, we got the movie art, we got everything.
Mm-hmm. So there's several series possibly upcoming in the future, depending on how this series does.
Exactly. Yeah. This is kind of our test pilot here.
Yeah, and we should probably state the schedule. So as of now, I have this listed as a bi-weekly thing, so every other week. That may or may not change depending on our schedules in the future.
And how well this does.
Yeah, but for now, I think that's it, right?
Yep, I'm good here.
All right. So thanks for I almost said thanks for watching, but thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed.
Have a great day.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle.
Bye-bye.